All right, we are back in Florida, and what are we doing, you might ask? We got a bucket of coolant, we got the AC discharged. I wasn't gonna do this, but I got requested on a heater core replacement, all right? So, back working on a 2013. So, I'm gonna give you guys some insights on how to do these things as easily and properly as possible. So, first thing you're gonna wanna do, no ifs, ands, or buts, get this guy out of the way. Then we're actually replacing the coolant level sensor's bad on this, so we're replacing that. You have to replace the reservoir, so just ignore that that's gone. But the bottom nut on the coolant reservoir, and then there's a nut right there you can see goes through the firewall. So those two you'll want to get. And then you're done under here. After you get the AC lines off, there's a 13mm nut. Now I'm going to show you on the 4th gen trucks. You have you have a bunch of bolts that hold the liner on. There's 2 nuts you have to get the bottom one off, like I was saying. So there's 2 you got to get. I took 4 because we were replacing this. This is one of them, and then this is for the AC. So you'll take all those. Then you're going to come out here, pop all of these off, all right? I'm going to get to these in a minute. You're going to pop both these side pieces off, both the bottom panels off, and these guys here, get a little pick in there. Be careful, that material is very, very soft. And then there's 2 10mm nuts that go in here. So those are your next ones. Now, these, you guys see these? On the top of the dash, there's one here, and there's one over there. There will be 10mm bolts inside of there. You don't have to pop these up, and you don't have to pop that middle one up. Then the next step, what I'm gonna tell you guys to do, there is 1, 2, 3 13s on this side, and then on that side there's 3 13s as well. You're gonna wanna come down here, remove this, and then you'll see there's 2 10mm bolts right under there. Granted, I've done this enough times, I don't have to watch tutorials on how to do this. I know some of you guys are going to want to. Realistically, this job is not that bad to do, but if you haven't done one before, set aside about 2 days. If you haven't done it before, if you have done it before, and you've done enough of them, you'll probably get it done in about 4 hours, but generally this is an 8-hour thing. Now, another thing to keep in mind, this guy under here, there's going to be a couple of clips holding this on. You're going to want to get this thing out of the way. All right, so as we're getting these guys off up here, I break it free. Try not to use anything electric down here. I mean, you can, but you just want to be super careful not to smack the window because it's something that you can have happen. All right, get those 2 bottom bolts right there. A little bit of a squeeze, but we got it. So don't think you guys are done yet over there. I got the piece down out from under the bottom. There are a bunch of clips that you are gonna have to undo, so keep that in mind. Now, my next step right here is we're gonna get these screws here, and we're gonna unplug everything to do with this panel. Now, you can carefully pop this thing down. You'll wanna pull out and then up to avoid this ring here. So, this here, you'll just push these clips in to get rid of this one. Doing it one-handed is a bitch. And then this will come around here. See that? We're gonna pull that, and it slides right out of this mechanism right here. And then we can just push those 2 clips in, and this will pull out. This makes it a 2-second job. So pull those out of the way, and then you can see this here. When you put it back in, you have a little hole there, so you can just put it through here. A nice little slit right there. So makes it super easy. Now I'm putting all the big pieces over here. I usually have my little red cart. I don't have it today, but I know where all this stuff goes. Now, when we're under here, there's a bunch of stuff you're gonna be unplugging. So something you need to be super careful of, you guys see that little pin right there? Make sure that when that comes down, you're not hit. I'll show you guys when it goes back together, but be super careful of that pin. So we're gonna unplug all of that. we need to unplug these two down here because this dash is gonna pull away. So I'm gonna get those unplugged. I generally try to unplug as much as I can. Anything that's gonna pull, I try to unplug it because this steering column, we're gonna be dropping this. So I'll show you guys how to do that here in a minute. All right, now once you've gotten all them, there are 4 nuts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now keep in mind, guys, I am not the greatest at making tutorials, so if you're following this, it's like I'm gonna do my best to give you guys the information you need. Things are gonna be way out of order. Generally when I do these, I work on these in whatever mood that I feel like taking things out is what I go first. Like there's guys that'll start and take this side apart first and then that side apart. I jump back and forth to keep all the bolts. Like these 6 bolts, 3 on each side. There's 2 that go down the middle. There's 2 that go on the top. These guys, like, it's just one of those. It depends, whatever way that you decide you want to do it. You don't have to take the instrument cluster, the radio, none of that stuff. All of this stuff just will literally slide back. Our main goal is to get this to come this way, like a door hinge, okay? So that we can get back in there. So I'm gonna drop this steering column and I'll show you guys what's next. All right, once those 4 nuts have been removed, you can see that brake pedal switch. See that? So you just gotta really be mindful of that. Now, realistically, you wanna move the seat as far back as it goes. This one's not a power seat, so we don't have to worry about that. I can move it back. Just make sure that you're not ripping and pulling on any wires. So the only thing you should see here is this little lever here, which you're not gonna pull on that. So we'll slide this back, drop that down, and then there is 3 more bolts this time that hold the dash to the frame support. Show you guys, there's 1 right there, and then 1 way in the back. I think that one back there is like a 15 or a 17. And the fronts should be a 13. So front bolts are a 10. Not sure what the back one is. It was either I think it was a 17 or a 15. I can't remember, but we'll keep those 3 bolts together. I'm gonna go grab the stuff. Now, keep in mind, at this point in the video, if your pile of bolts doesn't look like this and your pile of parts doesn't look like this, you messed up somewhere, all right? So, coolant bucket, that you don't need. And then this guy. So the main thing too is when you pull these lines off, which I don't mess with those lines. These are looped right now because it's shot. So what I usually do is I wait until I can pull this back a little bit and then I get those lines from inside the cab. So I'm gonna have to take that looped line right there and put it back inside and vice versa. So I'm gonna do that real quick off camera because this isn't something that you guys are gonna have to do, but this heater core was pissing coolant on the floor. All right, 15 mil in the back. This is what it'll look like. In theory, you are now ready to pull the dash. That, and I did forget one thing. The e-brake cable. Actually, yeah, you'll have to undo the e-brake cable because of this guy. So, there you go. The e-brake release, I should say. So now, other than a couple of wires over here, anything that you can see that's obvious, you're gonna wanna pull these out here. And then as you pull it, this one here you'll want to get. So there's a bunch of them up in here. So unplug all this stuff. Make sure when you pull these, you put a screwdriver between the white thing, not in between the gray thing and the white thing. You want to make sure that all these clips pull out. Get those 2 off, get that off. And then, like I said, as we're pulling, there will be some other clips to grab. I'm pretty sure, like up here, we need to pull this one. So I'm gonna get that out of there. I don't know why they do it this way, but like I said, you're gonna wanna go over, make sure all your clips, anything that's gonna touch the dash needs to come out. So this goes down to the dash. You're gonna have to get that out. Get that out of the frame. And then there's 1 wire harness here that goes down. We're gonna have to unplug that. That looks like an issue right there. I'm gonna diagram and mark that. So this little wire harness right here, pull that out so this can sit up here. And then this one here goes down with the frame. So these will pull aside, keep them separate. Not sure why that's bare. I mean, that's weird if they did that from the factory, but I can't see them doing that from the factory, but I could be wrong. All right, so that should be all we have. I think that was the last step. Now we can start pulling this thing forward. All right, so there's one more clip. That guy way back in there. So make sure you grab that one. And then look, you guys have successfully pulled a dash. So I'm gonna move this forward a little bit more. There are 3 bolts from the inside. There's 2 nuts up top and then 1 bolt down below. Keep in mind, you need to be super careful because this here, take these screws out because that's a vent. And then I'll show you guys my tricks here, but let me get this out of the way and I'm gonna show you guys a trick when you pull these things through. All right, your removal pile should look like this. You guys see all that? All right. Here also, I'll show you guys when we get down here. All right, so these things are an absolute fight. You can choose if you want to take this out or not. I generally will. You guys can see right there, there's a vent. Because there's 2 from each side, what I'll generally do is I'll pull it off. I'm gonna get these coolant lines. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do before I do it. I'm gonna get those coolant lines off. And then we're basically just gonna pick this thing up and out, pry it. I don't know why there's a shitload of zip ties up here. Getting them back together is always the hardest part. Getting it out's pretty easy. So usually when I put this thing back in, I pull this motor off. So I'm gonna go set this aside with its screws. We'll go to the next step. All right, so here's what I'm saying. I like to get this thing pulled out just enough that I can reach those clamps right there. Now, the bottom one's already been removed. I did that when we looped these for the customer initially. So I'm gonna take a pair of whatever you got to be able to get those off. And then that should just pull right out. But in my case, mine is already off. I'll show you guys here. See that? Mine's already off. So in theory, I could pull mine right out. But your stopping point on this, when we get this out of the way, is gonna be these things right here. So keep that in mind. You're gonna have to pry up there. These are kind of a pain in the ass to get out. I also want to let you guys know, if you hear any like plastic cracking when you're doing this, that's you just releasing the bottom vents. They're an absolute pain in the ass, but you can see we have our line here. So I'm gonna put this thing back on exactly the way we get it. You can see from it loves to burn holes in your insulation. Now also keep in mind, this plug, you've already unplugged it, so this box, nothing needs to be unplugged here. So what I was saying about how easy this is, watch this. You guys did all that work just to come in here and take out 2 screws. Yes, I did crush that, we're not reusing it. You guys did all that work just to take these 2 screws out. 2 screws and a clip on the other side. Might need to get a flathead. Look at that. Bink. I'm gonna have to crush that, but you guys get the point. 2 screws and a clip, and then this thing just comes right out. Ah, yep, there's your leak. So, confirmed right there. That's where it was leaking. This thing's been cooking that insulation for a while. Now, here's your AC evaporator core. To replace that, that's where the fun part comes in. You actually need to take all these little side clips off. There's a bunch of screws in the side. You got to separate this whole box. But if you just want to replace your heater core, it's 2 screws. Now, I'll be super careful. Drop that thing in there. Right there. Right there. Pop these fuckers off. Sometimes they have pressure in them. But be very careful. You don't want to break any of the seals or damage anything. Get those off, and then you're just going to take this, and it only goes on one way. You can see there's dowels and everything. There's a clip there and a clip there. So there you go. We got her in. It's a clip right here, 2 screws. All good. Make sure she's bottomed out. There you go. This was fun. Now we put the whole thing back in. Now, I will say, getting these things in is a pain in the ass because that that, and that all need to line up at the same time. I'll show you guys a trick to that here in a minute. Let's see what was in this. Not much, because it was leaking. Ooh, there's stuff coming out of it. I'll probably be doing another heater cure here for these guys here soon. If you guys don't know, this is a fleet truck. They do boats. This is one of the driver's trucks, and then the other owner-operator, we just did a heater core for her the other day. And this is where we're at. So the whole point is we're going to throw this thing back together and make it look like we were never in here. That's one of the things that I promise when I work on this shit. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is how you guys do it. So I'm going to get this heater box in here, and I'm going to show you guys. Keep in mind, this is a mobile job, like 1,200 miles from my house. I drove down here to do this. We got another couple things to do while we're down here, but you also want to check these doors. Looks like the doors are good. But you want to check them while you're in here, make sure they're not broken. But this one was a heater core issue. So now you'll see that sits up against the firewall. This side here, see those two vents right there? You got to line all that stuff up. Also, if you guys want to know something, you guys see this little cutout right here? You can cut that out and put a filter in there. There's two little tabs on the side. The truck that I did the other day had a cabin filter. This one does not have a cabin filter. So my truck does not have a cabin filter. So you can't just put a cabin filter in a 3rd gen, but you can put a cabin filter in this if you wanted to trim this whole housing out. And you could slide the factory filter in there and then just get the cover. So keep that in mind. If you guys want these systems to last a long time, they'll last the life of the truck. You just need to get a cabin filter. So what I like to do is line these things up. Before I put the box the whole way in, you can see we got the bottom one on, and it is in the correct orientation to where it can reach that, but it won't reach until the box is physically in. We're not replacing any of the hoses. I was just instructed throw these on, so I'm gonna slide that through, and then we'll drop the pin in the exact same location. I recommend the worm clamps, to be honest, but it's just one of those. We don't have any. I'm doing exactly what I am told, and that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna slide that guy in there, and at that point, we've already got that piece slidden in. We just need to lock it down, and then this side, and then we just gotta put the middle piece back in, which means I gotta take that motor out. Those are always a tight fit, but it's easier to do it with it off. Also, don't take this guy off, because I learned that lesson before. You can unclip this whole thing, but if you put this box back, you're never gonna get this in without pulling the box back out. All right, so we got the hoses on. Everything's lined up, even that guy back there. I don't wanna bolt it down just yet, not until we have that piece in there, so that way we have a little bit of leeway. You'll also wanna come over here and check, make sure that one's in and that one's in. And then both of your AC lines, that's just a 13 millimeter, but we're not gonna be putting those back in until we get the coolant reservoir back in. He's going to get me a new one now. All right guys, so what you're gonna wanna do for this one here is you're gonna wanna split this thing in half, put the section towards the back in first, and then the front section will slide right in. Now it is a little tight, but as you can see, it goes right in. We'll throw the screws in, and then we can throw this motor back on. All right, now once you got everything in there, tighten up all the stuff. I'm gonna get everything in here done, and then we'll work on the outside next, mainly because the coolant reservoir, usually I would just tidy everything out there. That way I know when I'm done in here, I'm done. But I don't wanna switch gloves again, so all we gotta do is throw this back. Yes, getting a little dirty. Gonna throw this back. Keep in mind, put all your clips back where they belong, factory location. I hate it when things are missing, so let's get it back on. This is where it gets interesting, right? All you gotta do, plop this thing back. Probably gonna have to do, there we go. So that will go there, and then there's a nut here on the side you'll wanna tighten back up. Get all this stuff back in place. Now keep in mind, there's a million different ways you can put this thing back together. I'm gonna go through, do the wiring harness first, screw the bolts in, make sure everything lines up. All right, so I generally like to put the bolts in loose on one side, Then I went over and tightened the other side. Now we can come back here, tighten the top bolts or the middle bolt first, because you'll see the dash will move. So if you tighten this bottom bolt first, it'll fuck up the alignment. Semis. There you go. Now I'm gonna focus on one side first, so we're gonna get this side all finished up, get the upper top bolts all in, finish this out. I told him now would be a good time to vacuum, but he doesn't have a vacuum right now. So we're gonna throw everything back together. I can throw this clip back on. We got that in place. Like I said, I generally try to make sure everything looks factory, goes back together. Every factory clip is reused. So get those two bolts in, those two bolts, then there's a cover. So if these holes down here don't line up, what you're gonna wanna do is loosen this nut right here. This side was perfect, that side was a little off, so loosen that nut and then retighten it back up. Getting attacked by skeeters here. So we got all these tight. We got this guy back underneath. We got this one back on. Keep in mind this thing was black before I got to it. Kind of hard to clean this stuff when you're mobile. But yeah, so we're gonna get the bottom piece back on, and then we will move to these things. You just push here and then pop down, which you guys should know if you took it apart. This guy goes up underneath here this way, going upside down, because I'm paying attention to the camera more than anything. Just give her a nice little smack right there. This side's done and back together. Now we just got to move to the other side, the hard side, which realistically none of this is really hard. It's just time consuming. So we are done over here. Now we come back over here. Remember, we got 3 bolts to do, and this little push tab here, make sure you don't break that when you lift it up in, because you will. I know you will. If you guys remember these bolts, these 3 first. All right, so got this whole side clipped together. Tried to clean out as much of that as I could. There we go. You can see all that. I'm trying here, but no vacuum in the middle of nowhere. I'm actually in Jacksonville, but so what I'm gonna do is get this whole thing back up, and then we'll start plugging things back in. Get this up out of the way. Just watch that clip. See that little tab right there where it's like bare? That's where that little push button's gonna end up. So just keep that in mind. All right, my piece of advice here is watch someone else's guide, because mine's gonna suck. So what I'm gonna tell you to do, before you lift this up, press that brake pedal as far down as you can. Get this up to where it goes in the holes, and then put 1 nut on. So now I can tighten this up without worry that actually no, I can't. Hold on a sec. There we go. Now I can push that up to where there's no worry. So still press the brake before you lift that up into the holes. I did, and it still popped down behind. All right, so it's getting hot here, but got everything down here plugged in. Up here, this little clip goes down onto a 90. Yeah, they're not. Next, we'll grab this little piece here. Yep, still haven't gotten those 2. We will get those before we finish. But like I was saying, this one's easy. This thing's super easy. It's literally just pop it in. All right, now that you've been good enough to get those in, these are directional. That clip goes towards the back. See it? Right, left. It's marked. So all you do, come in here, right there. Come over here. Right there. And then we are done on the inside of the truck. Next step, get these coolant lines on. You can see right there. And then we got to get that one over there. And then we're not going to put the AC lines on yet. I'm still waiting on him to bring me the part, and then we are done. All right, we got the new stuff in. Like I said, this job's so much easier with the AC line out. He's gonna try to go get this thing charged today for the driver, but this is in. If you guys need a sensor for these, yeah, you have to replace the whole reservoir. Kind of bullshit. Other than that, we're good over here. Everything's tight. We just gotta fill her up with coolant. Wait for him to get back. Put these battery terminals back on. Put that back in, and then we're done. So the battery terminals, all yours preference. I like to loosen them up enough, take a socket, pound them down, bottom them actually out, and then tighten them up. All cleaned up. She done. I don't know what that's about. He left that in there. We have power. He's gonna have to adjust this wherever he wants it. But that's it. Not gonna start it until he brings back coolant, but yeah, if you guys are interested. A shot. It wasn't clogged, it was just leaking. So you guys are wondering what it costs to do one of these. Generally on a heater core. Heater cores, I charge $760 to do these. So generally factor in about a day for it. This one we were able to get done a little bit sooner because I've done so many of these things that they aren't bad. Other than that, fill it up with coolant, drive it out of here, good to go. Don't need to talk to you guys about that anymore. And if you guys are wondering what my drive time rate is, keep in mind I came from Pennsylvania down here. We got a few more jobs that I'm probably not going to be filming for the mobile stuff, but factor in I charge about $120 an hour for drive time to do any of this stuff. So just keep that in mind as well. That covers my fuel and my time, because just because it's easy work doesn't mean that the time is any less valuable, because I still, you know, I'm still operating a business. It still costs money. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys in the next video.